There once was a people connected by string. There was a great deal of tripping, but no one was ever out of reach. If you got lost, you could always find your way back. If they had to travel, they scooched. And if someone danced, well, if someone so much as raises their arms when you're connected by string, it sends a jolt, and soon everyone's dancing. So they danced and played tug of string, but not hide and seek, because there was no way to hide and no one to find. The place where they were was a place on the edge of good and evil, but also quite literally on the edge of a cliff. They liked the waterfront view. No, life on the edge wasn't a problem until the winds came. Being a people connected by string on the edge of a cliff, you add wind, and that's a scary thing. Some started running, some fell, some got dragged. No one liked being dragged, not for 1 sec, but the one who liked it least was a girl they called Hep. Hep decided to cut herself loose from this thing, this annoying condition of being connected by string. But as it turns out, the string was quite strong, and not even the sharpest of scissors or the knifiest knife could cut through this string, no matter how hard Hep tried. Okay, the string couldn't be cut, but what if she added some string to her string? Then maybe she'd have enough string to kind of do her own thing. So Hep added string to her string and gave herself a pat. Her string theory had worked. She had got herself slack. She liked how it felt, so she added some more till her string was so long it dragged all over the floor. She moved inland. She strung a string house like a giant heap of linguine, where she feasted on string beans in a new string bikini. No one could see where Hep went, just a string stretching far off into the distance. But they could see what she'd done, and soon everyone started to string themselves slack. There was such a frenzy of knot tying and string buying that soon enough the local string stores ran out, and getting more string meant venturing farther out, so of course only those with slack could get there and back, which left some folks with a permanent string of bad luck. Pulled this way and that on a short string, they were stuck, while their neighbors, so it seemed, had the world on a string. Yes, some had enough slack to imagine they lived with no strings attached. They could hide, travel, dance, or not. They were free. So when Hep found she missed having a view of the water, she just picked up her string and moved herself up into a tree. But here's the thing. They were still a people connected by string. Just because Hep couldn't see her impact didn't mean there wasn't one. This thing Hep did, this move she made, this sent a jolt down her long string road of slack, till the jolt reached the group with only the string on their backs, and the jolt was so forceful it sent one of them right over the edge. The guy they called Knob was quite literally hanging by a thread. Your people are your people. Hep was not free of them. All that Hep's slack got her free of was seeing them. The wind didn't wait for Hep to finish unpacking. The next windy day found her new place a silly string mess, and the wind lifted up all her untidy excess. It twisted all the string that convinced her she was such a success, and the more Hep tried to hold on, the more tangled she got, until she was all tied up in one impossible knot. Undoing knots is much harder than making them. It's extremely hard when you're inside the knot. But Hep began the work of detangling, all while Knob was precariously dangling. When Hep finally freed her first tiny string, she knew she should save it for later. She could turn it to string cheese or a volleyball net. She could ask it to play her a string quartet. But fighting the wind was a tiring thing. So her hands did something her head found surprising. She let the string fall. And the wind carried it to those on the edge, who pulled up Knob where he was hanging by a very thin thread, and they gave him the extra string they had found, providing him a bit of slack, a bit more access to other parts of the ground. Just because Hep couldn't see her impact didn't mean there wasn't one. Back home, she didn't miss that tiny strand. She let loose another, and then one more. How many must fall until she would feel how she had felt long before? The push and pull dance of people connected by a string that strong. But oh, Hep had spent her life making her string so very long, so she didn't feel a whole lot. Still, she gave herself to the work of untying knots. Maybe her extra would be well received, help others survive the tangly web she had helped weave. She couldn't be sure. One never quite knew what the wind would do, where it would fling string, to whom it would bring string, but she was part of a people strung together in a land of cliffs and windy weather, and no matter how far apart they were flung, no matter how impressive string castles they strung, they could not escape their created state, a funny and frustrating thing, to be part of a people connected by string.